All right. Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Happy Wednesday, right? January 4th, 2023. I'm glad I got that right. I was rehearsing that. I thought I was going to say 2022. Anyway, there's a lot to talk about tonight. Now, if you remember from last night's live stream, we were really focusing in and talking about China. And we were discussing the potential that China has entered a new bull market and it could run rather significantly. And it seems like that's playing out. I mean, take a look at the price action today on Wall Street with some of the American ADRs. Now, again, Alibaba, I think was up about 7% today, or 12%, excuse me. JD was up about the same, I think 14%. And then Pinduoduo, ticker symbol PDD, up about 7%. And, you know, we've not only been seeing this with just China, right? I think it's been very obvious that we've been seeing pretty much a secular rotation out of the United States into emerging markets. So we're going to be talking about that as well. Check out the performance of EEM. So EEM is an ETF that tracks emerging markets. That performed very well today, up 3%. Take a look at VWO, which is the Vanguard ETF that tracks emerging markets. That was up 2.5%. And if you look at a lot of these European stocks on a valuation basis, and we'll do a deep dive into some specific stocks, maybe later in a standalone video talking about valuation. There's some pretty good bargains there, and I think you're seeing this big rotation into emerging markets. So we'll talk about that. And look, as of doing this video, China just opened, right? It's almost 9 o'clock now. China gapped up, Hang Seng Index up almost 3%, up 475 points. I mean, this thing just keeps breaking out. Let's see how much it's up from the lows. Now, if you remember correctly, I think we put in a bottom on November, I think it was like the 1st November, and we've now rallied almost 50% from the lows in China. So we're going to be talking about that. Big economic news day here in America, the good old US of A. We heard from the Institute for Supply Management as they released their Purchasing Manufacturers Index. The manufacturing PMI came in at 48.4, further deceleration in December with new orders and production contracting significantly, prices decreasing, and exports and imports contracting as well. Now, this is probably one of the most important leading economic indicators that we could look at in order to do two things. Number one is to predict or help us to predict GDP growth or GDP contraction, and hopefully that'll give us an idea into corporate earnings growth, right? So we're going to be doing a deep dive into the PMI report. If you guys want to follow along with that, please type !ISM in the chat, and the Nightbot will drop the report from the Institute for Supply Management, their December 2022 manufacturing ISM report on business. And team, let's get started. Now, I think it's raining, so let me bring my umbrella. Allow me a minute. Let's see what else I got going on here. Yeah, we're good. All right, just want to make sure we close up shop here in the office. Let's get out of here. I'll bring my umbrella just in case it starts raining, but I think we're going to have a pretty dry night, please God. Everybody, remember our conversation yesterday? Anybody remember we were talking about home builders? Another day of follow-through. Another day of very good price action in home builders as well. We'll talk about all of that. Now, here's the thing. I'm actually working on a piece, almost finished. I'll be putting that out for everybody to read, the Behind the Street newsletter. I think this dollar action that we're seeing with the Dixie, now breaking below its 200-day and 50-day moving average, I think that's fueling this emerging market rally. Thoughts there? I don't know. We'll talk more once we get down to the ground level. But without further ado, let's say hi to the people who matter, the viewers, the chatters. I see Laythas here, Melissa White, good to see you. Hemp Lord, welcome. Hawaii Marketing Videography. I see Nina, Mike. What's up, everybody? Hope you're well. Just give us a minute. We usually buffer. Please stand by. Hey, have a good night, man. Is it raining? It is not. All right, well, I guess we'll just have to carry the umbrella anyway. Sparks Carnival, good to see you. I see Coach Daniel. Welcome, Coach Daniel, Plague Doctor. Thanks for so much for being here. Sparks Carnival, Mustafa, TC. Everybody, welcome. Carol Reevy, DowJones.eth. Our good friend Dow Jones. Well, Evan Weeks, I see you. So let's quickly just do a brief recap. Obviously today we are going to be doing a deep dive into the Institute for Supply Management's PMI report for December. Now, you'll have noticed that we have now slipped into contraction. And technically last month in November was the first month we got a print of the PMIs below 50. I think we came in right at 49. So the December number, we've contracted and decelerated further, coming in at 48. And if you've been watching Walks on Wall Street, I think I've probably blasted you guys about this, probably more so than not. You should have caught on to the trend that the manufacturing sector in the United States has been in structural decline for the latter part of the year. If you go back, and again, for those of you who are just joining, if you type !ISM in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link to the actual report. And if you scroll down about halfway through the page, it'll actually give you all the historical PMI prints. And what you'll notice is that throughout the entire year of 2022, this is a fantastic view of Empire State Building from the corner of East 33rd and Madison. Now, you'll notice throughout the entire year 2022, every single month, we've had deceleration in the PMIs. Yes, the readings were coming in above 50, right? But what have we learned from the stream? It's not necessarily the number. Geez, that guy's going fast. It's not necessarily the number that matters. It's the trajectory of those numbers. And I'd like to remind everybody that as you're looking at the PMIs, and this is why it's so important to create an Excel spreadsheet and plot the PMI prints, because it'll give you a visual, right? For all the visual learners out there, I am a visual learner. It'll give you a dot plot of the business cycle in real time. And you can go back throughout history. You could actually data mine and scrape all of this data for free. And you'll see patterns in the PMIs. They tend to peak around a certain point, and they tend to get to their trough set around a certain point. And then we can use that data as a leading economic indicator to hopefully forecast GDP growth and corporate earnings. Hey, RJ is here. This is Ola Tom from Colorado. Good to see you, RJ. Thanks for joining us. Bree Grams is here. Says, guys, I had a difficult but necessary talk at work today. What a feeling. Love that. Love that, Bree Grams. Hopefully you got what you wanted. Maybe a raise. Who knows? Sparks Carnival, the LT Prod. Good to see you. Now, it was supposed to rain tonight in Manhattan, but actually seems pretty clear. We're looking at the One Vanderbilt building on the corner of East 34th Street and Madison Avenue. But we are actually going to be walking uptown. Now, I don't want to give the surprise away yet, but there's a little bit of a rumor mill circulating on Wall Street, and we are going to walk there. So I'll leave it off at that. So let's head up Madison, and we will go past the Morgan Library to the Upper East Side of Manhattan. Carl is here. Good to see you, Carl. Says, hey, Tom. Fairway says, Tom, Amazon confirms they are laying off 18,000 workers. Yeah, that's another good point. Now, we have that down as well for a topic of discussion on tonight's live stream. We have been getting flooded today with breaking news all over the tech sector and on Wall Street announcing layoffs. So I think as Gibson put in the chat, Amazon is announcing about 18,000 layoffs, which is horrible, right? We never want to hear that. It was actually more than they've expected. And guys, check out Salesforce, okay? We talk about Salesforce all the time, Mark Benioff's company, ticker symbol CRM. They've actually announced today that they are going to be laying off about 10% of the entire workforce and reducing their office capacity. And hold on, let's cross here. Now, here's the interesting thing. We've actually been talking about this on Walks on Wall Street for quite a while. This growing trend of major corporations not only laying people off, but trying to break their leases on very, very expensive office space and downsize, mainly due to remote work. Now, do you guys remember very specifically, I'm just gonna give you a sweeping view here on Madison Avenue. I love these sort of buildings here. But notice very early on in the pandemic, the companies that came out first and stated that they would go to 100% remote and they were not requiring their employees to return back to the office. Number one was Twitter. I remember that very specifically with Jack Dorsey, then CEO of Twitter, saying, look, we're 100% remote, you don't need to come to the office. Number two was our good friend Mark Benioff. Says, you know what, if you want to come to the office, you can. If you don't want to come to the office, you don't have to. So think about Salesforce Tower right over here near Bryant Park. Think about Salesforce Tower in San Francisco. Why do you need all of that space? Why do you need to be paying all that money if you're not going to require your employees to come to the office? This is an interesting view here. It's sort of like an overcast, hazy look. Sally's here. Good to see you, Sally. Evan Weeks of Salesforce laid off 10,000 employees today. Yeah, you're right. It's wild. It's wild. And I think that, you know, if I had one prediction, layoffs are probably going to come in waves. And I think this is only the first wave here. Richard Vogel says more hybrid work. I agree with that. Austin City Limits, welcome. Jimmy Hook says today is the anniversary of the New York Stock Exchange opening its permanent headquarters on Broad Street. Wow, January 4th, 1865. I didn't even know that, man. Thank you for putting that in the chat. That's a really cool statistic. Thank you for saying that. Who Dat Dave, welcome. So Tom, will this commercial space be transforming into residential space? Look, I don't know. I think, you know, again, I don't know the answer, and I'd love to hear from you guys. I think it's a good conversation to have. But here's the problem with a lot of the older office space, right? And we've had this conversation before. Morgan Library's to your right on East 36th Street. We've had this conversation before, right? A lot of the older office space in Manhattan, and not necessarily exclusive to New York City, but all over the country, it's going to be a little bit difficult to convert those buildings into residential apartments for one reason and one reason only, is because of the asbestos. And it is very expensive to rip and replace and remove all of that asbestos. So we've given this example before. KPMG, big company, they're moving out of the east side into the beautiful Hudson Yards. So I think you're gonna see that trend continue, where you have companies moving out of old and dingy office space into the pristine office space. And we're gonna have a big problem with just vacant office buildings all over the United States. Somebody actually sent me an email, and I won't disclose who it is. I'm not sure, he didn't give me permission, but he works in one of these big real estate companies. And he says he has a prediction that much of this office space sort of trend, people dumping office space, it could sort of go by the wayside as shopping malls in the US. Now, does anybody live in a neighborhood or a community where there used to be a big booming shopping mall and now it is just a vacant, abandoned dump? I could think of a ton of those, so that was his prediction, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Lemonade is here, says evening Tom and chat mods. Jay Hart says hey. BNB 420 says as a commercial contractor, companies are downsizing, creating flex spaces and resulting in high vacancy rates. But repurpose is happening, rentals are in demand, says BNB 420. Hey, thank you for saying that. It's always nice and refreshing to have chatters who work in the industry able to, drop their 2 cents, so to speak. So I appreciate that. Now, I actually have a follow-up question for you selfishly. Do you think that this environment is inadvertently, for lack of a better term, bullish for co-working companies, like co-working space companies, like a ServCorp or a WeWork? Because my thought process is this. If I'm a startup CEO, right, and let's say I have 100 employees, I'm not going to sign a massively 36-month to 40-month lease. I'm just going to get a little WeWork and have my employees have access to any co-working space or a flex office space they want. I just don't think the CapEx is worth it, especially now. But I don't know, who knows? Hey, Michelle K. Let's see what Michelle K says. Says I live about 20 minutes from malls that shut down. It used to be so popular. Yeah. A lot of that stuff all over. It'll be interesting to see. Ricardo says hello from Brazil. Welcome. Baby X-Girl says Sunrise Mall in Long Island is officially closed. Is it really? Oh my God, I grew up right around there. Like literally right across the street. TC says I think WeWork is a fascinating concept. LL says I used to live near at a booming mall. Well, kind of a long story. Winnipeg. Interesting. Okay. Toby Sanchez says, hey Tom, happy Wednesday. Good to see you. I'm trying to get to as many comments as I can because my chat is horrible. Hey, Walking Minnesota says I work for a startup and they have us all working out of WeWorks. Oh, there you go. There you go. I work out of a WeWork too. Because it's very, very cheap. I think I told you guys, not to sort of beat a dead horse here, but it's $299 a month and you have access to any office, not only in the United States, but anywhere in the world for $299. Drinks, coffee, tea, anything you want on tap. I think that's a good deal, at least for what I do. East 38th Street here. Carl says the WeWork concept has been around a while. I recall years ago rental workspaces in Jacksonville, Florida. Nice, Carl. Good to see you. Ren10 says the dead malls were badly managed. Where I live, they finally demolished the dead mall, but about 12 miles away is a super popular mall, and it gets very packed. Yeah, I think that, the same thing in New York and Long Island. So sort of the same concept as we've been talking about with, this commercial real estate space. You see it all over here. I'd assume probably almost none of these floors are filled. But, out on Long Island, you have your very, large, Roosevelt Field malls, which are, prime Class A real estate. And then some of the older stuff just goes by the wayside and pretty much crumbles and turns to dust. A lot of those in Florida, too. Richard Vogel, what's up? Sparks Carnival says real estate REITs are trading at huge discounts to their net asset values. REITs tend to do quite well during inflationary times. Interesting. Nicole Smith says, hey Tom, here in Boca Raton, Florida, the mall is still very popular, but the stores in the mall seem very dead. I'd love to be in Boca Raton right now, although it is actually not too bad here. It's actually not too, it's not too cold. Not too cold. Diana's Mall in York, Town Heights, New York is closing as well. Julia M, what's up, my friends? Says, remember how WeWork almost went bankrupt because they bought so much property? I do. And, I remember it very well, actually. And I think it really ties in quite well to the saying that we discussed yesterday as it relates to euphoria, as it relates to greed, and as it relates to cheap money. I want to show you guys the outside of the front of this pub. I think it looks rather nice. Now, I'll read you the quote, because we are going to get into talking about emerging markets and Chinese companies here in a minute. But bull markets are born on pessimism, grow on skepticism, mature on optimism, and die on euphoria. And this quote really rings true to not only the stock market, but to really every aspect of life, right? If you think about the demise of WeWork, it was very, very piss poor upper management, and some would even say fraud, right? Allegedly, of then former CEO of WeWork, Adam Neumann, taking company funds and buying property with those funds, buying big houses in Miami and in New York, spending it exuberantly. And that is the exact type of euphoria you tend to see before a major crash or correction, right? Not necessarily in the stock market, but pretty much throughout anything, right? And I think it's a really good example, because if you think about what happened in 2021, you turned on the TV, you turned on CNBC, and it seems like everybody was an expert and everybody had an opinion on the stock market, right? Everybody was a genius, everybody was making money because it was a bull market. Now, those exact same companies that everybody was trading and making money off of are now pounded into the dust, some down 90%. And if you remember correctly, I think one of the most egregious showings of euphoria and greed and just almost excess was this entire SPAC boom. And I can say with a great deal of confidence that a lot of the money managers on Wall Street and entrepreneurs that were launching these SPACs were just solely doing it. They really didn't care about the underlying company. They just wanted a massive payday. And that really shows. And they did make a massive payday. They made billions at the expense of their investors who were left holding the bag. And now look where these SPACs are now. Some of them are completely out of business. So I think it's interesting to look at that. Robert is here. What's up? Good to see you. Nina says agree. What's up, Nina? Welcome. Yeah, Ryan Beck, Chamath is one of them. Quadrupled his wealth in a year, with all of these special purpose acquisition company, nonsense. I think that was a mini bubble in and of itself. You're 100% right. Hey, Dan Zhang says, hey, Tom, what are your thoughts on Salesforce cutting 10% of its workforce? Well, funny you may ask, Dan. What's up? Good to see you. Right here, this is the Salesforce Tower, ticker symbol CRM. We are here at Library Way. And I think this is just the start of a trend. And I'm not sure who was joining us earlier today. Man, it is really windy. We have to try out the mic. But I'm not sure who was joining us earlier today as we were discussing on the Walks on Wall Street coffee hour. But we're coming off a period of about 14 years of extremely cheap money and liquidity free-flowing throughout the entire economy, which has essentially made companies suffer from corporate bloat. And I've seen this in my world from interacting with different tech and telecom companies. That is sort of my background. And I can say with 100% certainty that, let me preface this with saying this. It's horrible to see anybody lose their job. It's heartbreaking, and I'd never want that for anybody. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But I do also have to be truthful to the audience here and say that corporate bloat is a real thing. Let's just leave it at that. And I think a lot of these companies overhired, and when you overhire and you grow too fast, these people, I'm not going to say everybody, but there's a good chunk of people at any organization that you really look at their job and you're like, do we really need this person? Like, what are you actually doing? You know, I've worked with people like that where I just, you know, me and my coworkers, we joke, like, what do they do all day? Like, we don't even know what these people do. So I think now that, you know, we're leaving that era of cheap money, these companies who have ballooned their workforce, such as Meta, Amazon, you know, I think Alphabet, Google has 150,000 employees. And they've grown, I think, about 50,000 of those employees just over the last year, if I can remember correctly. So, look, I think this is normal in an economic cycle where if you are suffering margin compression, if you're suffering from customers churning their software and canceling their licenses of their CRM like Salesforce and whatnot, investors are going to say, look, you got to cut costs. And it's not exclusive to the tech industry. You're seeing it on Wall Street. You know, Goldman Sachs announced about 4,000 job cuts as well. And, you know, I think it's necessary for a normal functioning economy. I don't know, what are your thoughts? Yeah, Evan Weeks says, despite the fact that these tech companies are laying people off, there's a ton of jobs out there for engineers. 100%. And, you know, that's sort of, Evan, it's a good point because that sort of ties into our main topic for tonight, which is the ISM PMI report. Now, we have some more people coming in the chat. So if you type ISM in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link to the PMI report and scroll down about, I'd say, a third of the way through the page and read what the respondents are saying. I think that is one of the most critical areas of the report. And on the first quotation from a respondent of a purchasing manager says there is a severe shortage of skilled labor. That is the first quote under what a respondent's saying. So not only for engineers and tech, but just skilled labor for manual labor too. You know, electrical contract work, HVAC, duct work. You know, I'm not sure if we have any, I think we do have some real estate guys and girls in the chat. You know, if you have multifamily property, right, and you just want to install a dishwasher, you just want any basic duct work done on your HVAC, you can't even get people to come out. It's in such rare shortage. So, you know, if as we go into a recession, and we are in one, I think you should maybe learn to turn a wrench, maybe, right? And that goes for me too. All right, team, we are here, Pershing Square Plaza, right outside of the beautiful Grand Central Station. Lemonade, welcome. Nicholas Dura, good to see you. Toby Sanchez, thank you for joining us.
Back in 1984, this shit didn't look like it.
Brad's Brains, his Twitter had some bloat as well. Now, Brad's Brain, that's a good point. Let me throw that out. Brad's Brain, that's a good point. So think about it like this. And I think me and Evan Weeks were having this conversation earlier today. But everybody thought that Twitter was going to collapse and crash and burn when Elon Musk had to go through all those layoffs because Twitter was burning, what, $3 million a day, allegedly, he says. But the platform is running wonderfully. So what is that sending, right? Think about the signal that is sending to big tech CEOs. If they watch Elon Musk fire a third of the company and the company is functioning and running just fine, well, what do you think the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, is thinking to himself? What do you think the CEO of Alphabet, right, Microsoft, are thinking to themselves? We can significantly reduce our workforce and probably have the same productivity, if not better, right? It's corporate bloat, and I think it's a real thing. I think it's a real thing. Beautiful shot of the Grand Central Terminal we have here. LL says, I'm not really for Twitter. but I look at it as just cleaning house. The sell tax is too much free money. Yeah, I mean, the sell tax, I think you're right. You know, we are coming off. It's sort of like you go to a Christmas party and you get hammered and you drink way too much alcohol. You feel euphoric when you're doing it, right? You feel great. You're hammering down the drinks, you feel great while you're doing it. But once they take the punch bowl away, once they take the alcohol away, you're gonna have to suffer the hangover. And I think with the Federal Reserve in a very, very strict tightening policy, this is our hangover. And we actually heard from the Federal Reserve today as they released their Fed minutes. And it's really nothing new. I mean, a lot of people on Twitter, on Wall Street were, saying they were almost like surprised by the Fed minutes. But I really don't understand how many times the Federal Reserve and multiple other Fed presidents have to say this over and over and over. They're not going to cut rates anytime soon. Rates are going higher, and they're going to stay higher for very, very long. And I don't think the market has fully interpreted that yet. And that may be a reason, everybody. At the beginning of the live stream, we were talking about this big rotation that we're seeing now into emerging markets. Okay, look at ticker symbol EMM, look at ticker symbol VWO. These are two ETFs that track emerging markets. They're performing really, really well. They're performing really, really well. And if you look on an individual stock level, some of these European companies are trading at really, really steep discounts. Hold on, let me go into Grand Central here. I just got to put my umbrella away in my bag. I was looking at all the weather reports and they were saying that it's going to pour rain, but guess not. Hey, Ren 1018 says, hey Tom, how full do those WeWork spaces get? I'm just curious. They don't get too full, to be honest. They do not get too full at all. Brad's Brain says, I stumbled on Musk's live on YouTube channel called Tesla last night. Was he live? Interesting. I'll have to check that out. Nicole Smith says, when is the next time you'll be live streaming Central Park? We'll be up there today. We'll actually walk up that way today. Good to see you, Nicole. Thanks for joining us. Sandra Soares says, hello, welcome. AM. All right, let me try to do something with this umbrella. Allow me 2 seconds. All right, team, I think that'll do. All right, so let's jump right into this. We got a lot to knock out here. Beautiful view of Grand Central. So today the manufacturing PMI came in at 48.4. That was the main reading for December. Now, notice the different categories, and I dropped the link in the Nightbot so you guys could actually go through this report yourself. You know that is the number one thing that I suggest. The first business day of every single month, you should be looking at the PMI report. You should be building and updating your Excel model to honestly see the business cycle in real time and potentially generate some trade ideas. So here we have new orders and production severely contracting. That was a big standout. You have prices decreasing, which makes sense because we've actually been seeing the CPI numbers and core CPI roll over. Exports and imports are contracting. Makes sense because we're going into a recessionary environment. Now, think about the numbers that we posted up in November. The November PMI was the first time in, I think, about 16 months or 20 months that the PMI numbers slipped below 50, coming in at 49. Now we are decelerating and declining further to 48.4. So it's so critical to look at the trajectory of those PMI numbers and look at it as the business cycle is turning, the manufacturing sector is contracting, And if we know that the manufacturing sector of the US economy makes up about 20% of all productivity, well, if that is contracting, that's going to take a big hit to GDP growth and translate over to slower corporate earning growth, or even corporate earnings declining altogether, which many of the major Wall Street analysts are actually projecting severe declines in corporate earnings. This is my favorite walkway at Grand Central Terminal. Absolutely beautiful with the chandeliers here. SBK Pilots, as news sources are reporting that Amazon will be cutting over 18,000 employees. Yep, we talked about that. Salesforce as well, those were the main two. I think Vimeo as well. I'm not too familiar with that company. I think it is like the video company. But I think Vimeo is laying off about 11% of their employees as well. Court B says, hey Toms, thanks so much for the thoughtful and informative walks. I always learn so much from everybody. I hope you and everybody have a prosperous and healthy 2023. Hey, Court B, thank you for saying that. It means a lot. I wish, and I think as I speak for everybody, I don't like speaking for everybody else, but I think I could speak for everybody else to say that we wish you the same as well. So thank you so much. Ryan Bex is starting to think Austin may have the best real estate deals soon with these tech layoffs. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, now there is a shortage of housing. Oh, this kid's at the Whisper Wall. I'll quickly show you guys the food court that is now closing. But here's the thing. We were looking for our catalyst as we were talking about, you know, there's so much talk about, oh, it's going to be another 2008, it's going to be another Armageddon. You know, everybody, you know, sell your real estate. But guys, yesterday we did a whole segment on Walks from Wall Street about why are home builders showing such crazy relative strength. Today, again, we had additional follow through. You know, ticker symbol PHM up 3%, Toll Brothers up 3%. And they seem to be finding a bottom and forming these stage one sort of bases. Now, my mind's sort of racing here. Oh, I actually don't think we can go out here. We have to go out the other side because that's going to take us through too much scaffolding. Now, my mind is sort of racing here, but here's what to piggyback off of the topic that we were talking about with a lot of these malls, these vacant malls in America. I think a lot of them are going to be demolished, and I think those would be good targets for big multifamily properties. Hopefully that would, you know, potentially fill the void for a lot of the demand we have. Hey, Lathus, Tom, home prices are crazy in many areas compared to a year ago. Never paying these crazy inflated rates. Yeah, but I mean, they're decelerating rather quickly. So usually what you'll see, yeah, on a year-over-year basis, home prices are up a lot. But month over month, we are starting to unwind here. But it's a good point. Evan Weeks says, Tom, inventory is still low, at least until corporate buyers start putting their purchases back on the market. That is true. SME Media says it would take a lot for Austin to have affordable home prices, in my honest opinion. You know, I've been to Austin, Texas once. I did like it, but I don't know if I could live there. But I did like it. I just don't know if I could ever live there, honestly. But hey, Rick Jones. Yeah, and office conversations too. Michael Joseph says empty office space too. Every municipality trying to convert to residential now. You're correct, but the main problem that I've been seeing as it relates to that is the asbestos. And usually the office buildings that have the highest vacancy generally speaking, are the older style office buildings. So you're seeing a lot of companies move to these Class A beautiful buildings. You know, we talked about KPMG moving their headquarters to the Hudson Yards, which the Hudson Yards is awesome, by the way. We were actually there yesterday. And a lot of these older office buildings are just sitting empty. It's kind of crazy. Okay, let's exit here. Now, I'm gonna take you guys up Park Avenue, okay? We have some rumor mills on Wall Street that I think would be fun to talk about. Okay, here we are on the outside world. Let's head up to Park Avenue. Now, in the PMI report, there were only 2 manufacturing industries that actually reported growth. And those were primary metals and petroleum products. Everything else, all the 13 other manufacturing categories declined across the board. Now, I wrote down a couple of them in order of their declines. We'll actually go over here to show everybody the front entrance of the Yale Club. But of those declines, wood products, fabricated metals, chemical products, and electrical equipment, in that order, declined the most drastically. However, I think it was quite interesting that, we're on this topic tonight of mass layoffs in the tech sector. Salesforce, Amazon, Meta. But even though we have so many layoffs, it seems like every day we're being inundated with this news. If you scroll all the way down to what respondents are saying in the PMI report, the first quotation is, "We are suffering from a skilled labor shortage, and that shortage is huge," to paraphrase what they said. So I think, for anybody who's unfortunately got laid off, maybe think about moving into one of those industries, skilled labor, hard labor, something like that. Now, I want to ask the audience here, ask the chat as we're standing outside of the Yale Club. You don't have to name the company you work for, but is there any rumblings within your organization, within your company, that there's going to be layoffs or a reduction in force? Because there's one thing to read about it in the news, right? There's one thing to read about it in the Wall Street Journal, read about it in the Post, the Times, but is it actually hitting home at the viewers? So I don't know. Let me know in the comments if wherever you guys work for, they're announcing layoffs. GGNYC says no. The LT Prod says, yeah, we've had a skilled labor shortage on and off for years. So somebody works in pharma. Laura M says, Tom, there's no layoffs in pharmaceuticals. And that would actually corroborate, if I can pronounce it correctly, with the performance in a lot of big pharma stocks. Big pharma, a lot of the individual stocks trading near 52-week highs. Oh, Daniel Gomez says, Tom, we stopped main hiring at the end of November. Evan Weeks is negative, but I currently work in the petrochemical industry. Interesting. Okay. Helen Tully says, I work in education here in New Zealand, and we are screaming out for teachers. Oh, teacher shortage maybe. Jeez. Okay. Okay, Ryan Beck. Ryan Beck says, Tom, we went through some of that in Q4. They were notified at the beginning of the quarter and had time to find the new position internally or take a package at the end of the year. Well, that's good. I'm sure a lot of them, took the package. Now, at my previous company, that happened, and many of my old coworkers decided to take a package and just call it quits. Jay Sully says, I think all the layoffs, etc., is the reason I've stayed in sales so long, especially telecom sales. Yeah, Jay Sully, we talk about that so often on the live stream that, one of the most recession-proof careers you could have is a job in sales. Assuming that you're good, right? Because I always think back to this Mark Cuban quote. He's like, you don't have a business if you don't have any revenue. And the people who generate the revenue are the salesmen and the saleswomen. I think that's fair to say. right? You're not going to have a business if there's no sales. You need somebody ringing the register. So telecom sales, very lucrative. Software sales, very lucrative. And if you're in a good spot in a good vertical, you can do really well. So I think that's a really good comment. I think it's good for a lot of the viewers to see that too. So thank you for sharing that, Jay Sully. Ren 10 says, Tom, I work at a major law firm and we just had our best year ever, I could imagine. Well, congratulations on your success, Ren 10. I love that. It's good to hear good news amidst being hammered with layoff news all day. So that was good to hear that. Meld says dozens of calls a day from people needing rent assistance, but no rent assistance available anywhere. Wow. Steve CR says, Tom, Christmas is over, business step back or rescales for new product. Not many employees needed until production and shipping. The LT Prod says that move is going to cost 3M profits. All right, so we have a lot of diversity in answers here. Love that. So let's quickly piggyback. We got to hit on another topic before I take you guys to our awesome location where we're going to break some interesting news, or at least some rumors. Now, yesterday we were talking about China, and China has significantly outperformed the US equity markets. And it seems as if this move has been met with much skepticism. Now, if you've been watching CNBC, there's been some very, very notable fund managers that I respect a lot, who've been coming on the television saying, I would never invest in China. There's no way I would invest in China. It's impossible to put capital to work there. What are some of the other things they're saying? It's uninvestable. And the reason why they've been having a lot of these people on, if you remember, if you were watching the stream in October, in the end of October, we had this massive waterfall sell-off. This is Jamie Dimon's new office tower, by the way. We had this massive waterfall sell-off in the Hang Seng Index, or the Chinese stock market. And I posted about this on Twitter, and I sort of retweeted those tweets from October. If you guys want to check it out, if you have a Twitter account, you could follow us at Walks Wall Street. But if you look back historically, the Hang Seng Index tends to actually put in a bottom after these major capitulation waterfall sell-off events. And ever since we had that major capitulation event, these stocks have been off to the absolute races. Really quick, 270 Park Avenue. This is going to be Jamie Dimon's brand new office tower here. So JP Morgan Chase is old, but it's actually kind of new and remodeled in there. It's actually really nice. It's beautiful in there. It's right across the street, but they're going to be getting a brand new one. And it's kind of cool to watch the construction every night. We walk past here, I'd say once a week, so it's kind of cool to actually see that. We can actually see it being built. Now, check out Alibaba price action today. Up double digits. Check out JD, up double digits. Pinduoduo, up double digits, right? And I tend to be a trend follower, and these particular stocks are showing extreme relative strength. They're breaking back above their 50-day and 200-day moving averages, and you could tell a lot of money has been redirected and flowing into China, and money has been flowing out of the US. Also, another example is emerging markets in general. If you go to tradingview.com, there's a really cool feature that you could do. You could actually overlay different charts on top of one another. Overlay a chart of VOO or SPY, the ETFs that track the performance of the S&P 500, and overlay a chart of any emerging market ETF you want. I mean, pick one, EEM, VWO, and the outperformance is really, really glaring there. So this begs the question, and I want your feedback on this. Is this going to be a year, 2023, where you are going to find extreme outperformance and generate a ton of alpha by divesting from the US and investing in emerging markets. Now, I'm not saying that's what you should do. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, do we think that we're going to see this trend continue where maybe US equities don't sell off, but maybe they just chop around and go sideways for 2 years, while a lot of these cheaper European companies, Chinese companies appreciate? I don't know. Any thoughts there? Waldorf Astoria Towers, the renovation is almost complete. Steve CR says, Tom, China has cheap labor. No pollution restrictions for factories. That's true. That's actually a big problem too. Hey, Barbara is here. Welcome, Barbara. I see my good friend Gary Carpenter. Always good to see you, Gary. Thanks for being here. Who Dat Dave says, you would be chasing your tail by going after China now. The S&P 500 will be 5,000 at the end of the year and a 30% jump. Says Who Dat Dave? Interesting. Maybe. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm just having a conversation. I appreciate the comment. So you think the S&P is going to end the year at 5,000? Now, remember, I always try to tell myself markets are forward-looking usually by 6 months, right? So the PMIs that we got out today, I got to show you guys the cause stats. It's like a walk Wall Street tradition. Anytime you walk up Park Avenue, I got to show this thing. Cause. Apparently a lot of people like it. I get tons of emails whenever we walk past this guy saying, Tom, I love this. I want to collect these sculptures, the miniature ones. I guess a lot of people like them. So there you go. Hey, my friend Dan Zhang says, Tom, I think China still has to solve its housing market problem. My friend has listed his apartment with a 50% discount and there's still no buyers. Lots of people are also defaulting on their loans. Dan, I'm glad you brought that up because does anybody remember, very good insight by the way, Dan, thank you for sharing that. Does anybody remember we were talking about the Chinese commercial paper market? And I said, if there was ever going to be a black swan event, it has to probably come from there. Does anybody remember that? So I'm watching this thing, right? I'm watching the Chinese commercial paper market. And it's actually turning around. If you look at any of the Crane shares, Chinese bond funds, it's actually turning around and it's getting a big bid. So I don't know. Again, I try to be objective about things and follow price action. But it seems as if the market is forward-looking and it says they're going to figure out all these issues. Now, I'm not sure if that means they are. Like, I don't know. But usually the market is forward-looking by 6 months. You see all this negative stuff on the news that, you know, everybody in China, 70% of, I was reading this Reuters article. Did anybody see this? I was looking on the computer. I see this thing. So I'm looking at it. And it's like 70%, I think it was 70% of the population in Shanghai has COVID. Did anybody see that? Look, literally 70%. So you have all of this fear that the reopening is going terribly. They're burning bodies. They're like all of this horrible news that I'm reading. And the market just keeps rallying. You know, where is HSI trading at right now? I think we gapped up 3%. It's just too reminiscent of classic beginning early stages of bull market behavior. It's just too reminiscent of that. Too reminiscent. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm right. I think we have a pretty good discussion here. Yeah, VS is what? Yeah, look this up. There was a Reuters article today. I was reading it. That they said 70% of the population in Shanghai has COVID or is projected to get it. I'm like, how the heck is, I'm like, that's a horror show. Anyway, not to make the whole thing about COVID, we were just talking about it because we're talking about China. We're having a conversation about China. My friend Drew 8 says, remember, China is having only 1.7% inflation versus the United States, still at 7.1% and fighting. China is able to somehow insulate it's from U.S. Rate hiking in terms of its currency and onward. Good point. And also, you know what else may be helping emerging markets as well, to your point? take a look at the action in the Dixie. That's very critical to look at. Now, what was the theme? And see, this is so important to perhaps be a tad bit contrarian. I'm not saying be cynical and be negative all the time, but perhaps be a tad bit contrarian. Does anybody remember what I posted on Twitter about, 2 months ago? Well, it was the headline of Barron's. Usually on Saturday I do, coffee and papers is my theme. I just sit down at a coffee shop, read Barron's, IBD, all that stuff. Front page of Barron's is the unstoppable greenback. And I'm like, you know what? That is probably the top in this dollar cycle. And lo and behold, look at the Dixie. We're at 104. Slice through the 50-day, slice through the 200-day, and maybe that is fueling some of the fund flows we have into emerging markets. Now, a lot of these European companies are very cheap. Very, very cheap. Now, I'm not saying go buy these, but maybe weaker dollars fueling a lot of this move. You could be right. Could be right. Rat Fink is here. Good to see you. Yeah, the dark horse. We know that, right? That is one of the. That is I would say the main takeaway as to why maybe a lot of people are skeptical of investing in China. And I've been very outspoken about that too. It's like, how can you trust the financial reporting? How can you trust the earnings if they will not be susceptible and hold the same standards that U.S. companies have that is set by the SEC? Now, we've talked about that with Luckin Coffee, which was actually delisted. They do trade over the counter. But, I think the accounting fraud there was like $300 million. Now, thinking about Luckin Coffee, has anybody heard of a family office called Ziff Brothers Investments? Now, Ziff Brothers Investments, I still think they have an office here on Park Avenue, but they manage the wealth of the Ziff family or the Ziff brothers. There was a former managing director there that has now quit. He runs his own money. I think they're actually based out of Hong Kong. They've done their diligence. Now, Luckin Coffee is a real company, right? It's a real company. They have real stores. They have real sales. They have real earnings. They were just cooking the books. So they trade over the counter. And I think he built a personal 2% equity stake in the company. So, look, maybe things are improving. It's very difficult and very risky to invest in China. But, price action is not lying. Price action is not lying. Now, this is the Seagram building. I wanted to come here before they take down all of the holiday decorations and give everybody one quick look at, I should say, the Christmas trees and the fountains here. But if you're enjoying the live stream so far, feel free to leave a like on the video and hit the subscribe button if you're new. We do these walks starting at 8:30 p.m. New York time, discussing the financial markets and having a little chat and hanging out. So please join us. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. Wow, look at this shot. This is a really cool shot of 432 Park Avenue. Now, the building is actually taller than it appears. It's just that the top, probably 10 floors, are actually in the clouds. So assuming you live all the way up there, you probably don't have any view tonight because it's so cloudy. I know, Laytha, is like a moody atmosphere in that shot. Hey, Birdman is here. I see Wendy England. Good to see you. AM says that's majestic. Good to see you, AM. Brendan O'Brien says biggest elephant in the room is what do you own? Offshore holdings not recognized by the PRC. This is Brendan O'Brien. All right, I got to take you guys to Jeffries. We've already been streaming an hour. All right, does anybody want to know what I've been watching today? And I've been hearing some rumblings on Wall Street. I thought I'd share it with you. Now, I want to direct everybody's attention to Jeffries Financial. So, investment bank, money manager, right? So take a look if you have tradingview.com or MarketSmith or Bloomberg up on your terminal. type in ticker symbol JEF. JEF. Now, what do you notice today? This came up on my radar from a friend, and the stock is trading up at $36, but it turned over 1,000% of average daily volume. I'll be silent, and maybe, I think you guys already know what I'm getting at, but yeah, that's what I'll say. So we're gonna walk to the Jeffries building. Interesting price action there, 1,000% of average daily volume. The stock's up to $36. Now, why would Jeffries Financial be up that much? Maybe some takeover rumors, maybe some M&A activity. I don't know, can't say. But if you guys hear any headlines about Jeffries Financial, maybe you could think back to this stream and say, hey, I think I heard that on Walks on Wall Street. Hey, this is another really unique building here. I love the big sort of LCD screen that is very glowing blue, luminescent amongst the clouds. It's awesome. Yeah, Ryan Beck says, I'm pinging my bond buddy who used to work there. I mean, it's interesting activity, right? Why would Jeffries have that much volume exploding into the stock? Now, a couple things could happen here, right? Could you trade this? Maybe. But here's the thing. If the rumors do come true that, you know, maybe there's going to be a takeover bid or something, or a merger, I don't know. The stock will probably go up significantly. But if it turns out not to be true, or somebody blocks it or something like that, this thing's probably going to go back to $30. But I don't know, I just thought it was interesting. Wanted to bring that up to you guys. G Shep says you have to listen to the right people and news courses to get the truth about China, says G Shep. Jovic says Buffett owns stock in JEF. Oh, does he really? I didn't know that. How big is the stake, Jovic? Is it big enough where it's a notable position? Harjot says, hey Tom, I enjoyed your live stream. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Michael Joseph says it's too late if the news leaked already. Well, I don't think there's any news, right? I was scouring the internet. The only reason why I came up on my radar is two things. It'll come up on like your percent and volume gainers. Well, let me just say this. Somebody knows something. It could be a big nothing. I don't know. But why would you have that massive amount of turnover in the stock on the second trading day of the year unless somebody knows something? I don't know. I just thought it was interesting maybe to talk about it. I don't know. Zozo Bob says, Tom, do you think the craziness in Congress, if it continues, will affect the markets? Well, there's always craziness in Congress. I think that's just a given, right? I mean, if you want to talk about probably some of the most unethical humans on earth, you could talk about our congressmen and congresswomen. But I definitely think fiscal policy impacts markets. Maybe not so much as monetary policy, but it definitely has a big impact for sure. Ryan Beck says, I wonder what the options activity looked like today. I'll check that tomorrow. That is a good point. I actually have no idea. I should have checked that as well. All right, let's get out of here. Wow, Marty says, Tom, the Republicans have not successfully elected a Speaker of the House. Yeah, I've been totally checked out of politics, so I'll have to opt out on that. I have no idea. I couldn't even name who would be in the running for that, to be quite transparent. Yeah, Dan, I've been noticing an uptick in those sort of like dirt bike guys. They zip in and out of cars. It's really dangerous. Hey, marketing videography. Good to see you. This is Ferrari 4-door coming. Who knows? Sparks Carnival says PayPal had another day up 4.17%. I know, the dark horse, this is where we find common ground. I'm actually really nervous about that stuff because there's been a lot of crime on those bikes, so whenever I get circled by them, I have a fear that they're watching the stream. Anyway, onward, 432 Park Avenue. I think this is a really interesting shot of the Billionaires Row building in the clouds here. So really quick, I got a piece of news for the channel. So here's what I think I'm gonna incorporate. I actually filmed the video today, but here's the problem. My microphone is too echoey on my computer, so I actually have to go purchase, oh, look at that dog outside the 432 Park Avenue. Let me give you guys a closer look. I'm trying to see what breed it is. It looks really nice. Wow. Maybe an Irish sheepdog, maybe? Whatever it is, it looks great. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna post market updates. So for those people who can't view the streams maybe all the way, they may have missed something, I'm gonna be posting 10-minute. You guys will be able to see, behind my desk, and we're gonna go over the main topics and the main things that I'm looking at there that's on my radar as it relates to Wall Street tech and things like that. So you should be able to see the video up tomorrow. I just have to get a mic and refilm it because it's so echoey. So I actually have to get a real mic. So I got to do that. I'll be back at B&H tomorrow. So I think that'll be good for the folks who may miss the live stream and just want a 10-minute, concise, to the point review of the main things that I think everybody should keep their eyes on. Let's actually make a left here. We're gonna walk down a little bit and take a look at the Jeffries building. Hey, the Garlic, what's up? Good to see you. Always a pleasure. Joseph Hardaway, what's up? Remote control account. Marketing videography, thank you so much. Says great Hudson Yards video, thank you. I appreciate it. So Sparks Carnival thinks that Airbnb is going to take off in 2023. I hope so. I mean, I participate in Airbnb. I rent out my house on Airbnb. I think it's a good product. Now, who here in the chat, this is actually a good topic because there's been so much noise on Twitter debating that Airbnb has gone too far with all of their egregious cleaning fees, all of their, they nickel and dime you for all these fees, allegedly, according to these people on Twitter, that it's more worth it, or it's worth it just to stay in a hotel. Has anybody here in the chat had a negative experience either staying at an Airbnb or hosting an Airbnb? Because it's really up to the discretion of the host. Now, I don't charge people ridiculous fees. I have a one-time cleaning fee, but I tend to rent out longer term duration rentals. So I think a $50 cleaning fee is fine. Any thoughts there? Because there's been a big bear thesis on Wall Street that they're gonna lose a lot of customers from that. Nexus TV says, Tom, I have a suggestion for a low-cost quality microphone. Rode Go. Let me take a screenshot of that. Thank you for the recommendation. Here's a very rare bookstore. I would love to go in here. I've never been in, but I'll go in maybe tomorrow, see if they have any good books in there. Matthew M says, Tom, to one of the last topics, baby boomers are still retiring in the next 5 to 7 years to open up new jobs, state jobs, etc. It's a good point. That is a very good point, Matthew M. And you know what else I'm watching? To sort of, oh, somebody says Verbo is big up here, says Wendy England. Yeah, that's another one of those. Yeah, the VRBO is another one of those Airbnb type companies. VS is, I was actually just looking up Airbnb in some hotels in New York today. I would suggest the Upper West Side. Now, VS, take a look at some of the Airbnb listings on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And here's why I say that. I say that for two reasons. I think there's some restrictions or illegal Airbnb listings in Midtown. So again, not all the time. I'm speaking in a general sense here. I'm speaking in a general sense here that this is Jeffries, by the way. We were talking about the potential rumor mill on Wall Street. Here we are. This is the building. Jeffries has some unusual volume activity today on the street. Now, a lot of the luxury high-rises in Midtown where you see Airbnb listings, there's a pretty good probability or a good chance that they're illegal listings, and the city has really, really cut down on that. Not so much on the Upper West Side. You know, there was actually an interesting New York Post article about that. So I think you'll have better luck on the Upper West Side. That's what I'll say. Hey, the LT prods to get an equal type accommodation in a hotel as Airbnb, whole house. You would have to pay significantly more. Exactly. The Joey's World says our nieces works remotely and rents an Airbnb monthly to travel the country. It was cheaper than rent in Tampa. 80% of places have been priced fair with fees. It's Joey's World. That's exactly what I try to do with my property. And I've noticed that too. It's so funny that you mentioned that. And thank you for sharing that story. I think it adds a lot of value to the chat. Now, I told everybody I've been learning a lot, right? This is my first sort of investment property that I do Airbnb. And I think the biggest mistake that happened to me, well, not really a mistake, but it was just very tedious and laborious, was renting out my property for a handful of days. 1 or 2 days, maybe 3 days, because it's the same amount of work and you're dealing with so many people coming in and out, in and out, in and out, that I only exclusively have my Airbnb listing up for 28 days or more. And that actually attracts, in my experience, a much higher quality of a tenant, whether that be snowbirds looking to, have a 1 month vacation with their kids and they don't want to stay in a hotel because they want the kids to have their own bedrooms, or to your point, to Joey's World's point, it's people who have remote working jobs and they can travel and they can work in really, really nice, beautiful tropical places. I think it's a good point. It's been working well so far. Dusty Coles is kind of empty out tonight. Hey, Dusty, what's up, man? Thanks for joining us as we are standing outside of Jeffries on a potential interesting day. We're going to be watching the news flow. Maybe early next week, late next week, we'll see some breaking news in relation to Jeffries. Maybe takeover, merger, something. Who knows? Okay, now let us head up. We're going to go to Central Park. Okay, I'm seeing people like, yeah, maybe germs, maybe, I don't know. Ren 10 says, Tom, I have had a negative experience, lying in descriptions, canceling before I arrive. That's a big problem. That's a big problem because, maybe the bear thesis does have validity. And Airbnb needs to do a better job of holding hosts accountable just as they hold guests accountable, right? Because if you think about it like that, the risk is much, much greater on the guest. For example, let's say if I had this family of 5 show up to my house and I just canceled on them. Well, I have a family of 5 sitting in my front lawn and I've totally screwed their plans. You can't get that at a hotel. So there's obviously more risk with Airbnb, but if they can take better parameters and better measures to hold hosts accountable, then I think there's always room for improvement. But that's a very good point. I've seen that as well. So I think it's the host's duty and responsibility there too. All right, let's see what else we got. I'm trying to get to as many comments as possible. Sparks Carnival says, Tom, a big danger for investors is trying to time the market or predicting when a stock has reached the bottom before buying in. The greatest risk is waiting too long to invest. Well said. Now, I think, who said that? Was that Jack Bogle or John Bogle? Good quote. Love that quote, actually. Thank you for posting that. All right, touring different places. Thank you for joining. Matthew M says, Tom, point being, the state of Illinois specifically is in need of lots of positions, transportation and roadway maintainers, desk jobs. I agree. We saw that in the PMI report today, lack of skilled labor. Yeah, Michael Joseph, it sounds like a Peter Lynch quote, or it sounds like a, well, I want to make sure I didn't drop my key card for work. I was putting my umbrella away. No, I got it. There we go. Good. Hey, Edward Adams, Tom, off topic. Would you consider walking West End Avenue in the future? I would, and I would enjoy that. Now, you'll notice I tend to walk certain locations in the winter, and I tend to walk certain locations in the summer. And I'll tell you why. West End Avenue, I really want to show you guys. Maybe I'll do a standalone video in the day on a weekend when I'm not working. It's so dark over there, and we start streaming at 8:30. You guys literally aren't going to be able to see anything. But let me tell you this. I used to go to college right over there on West End Avenue. This was 2017, 2018. It is totally changed. I'm talking about totally changed on the west side. Now, I'm speaking about, the west side, 10th Avenue, all the way down there. And then West End is, going up to the upper west side. But more so along the lines of by John Jay College all the way down to DeWitt Clinton Park. That place is like a utopia now. And before, it was not good. We'll just leave it at that. It was not good. All right, we're going to make a right on 5th Avenue. That should take us all the way up to 59th Street, Central Park South. We'll be cutting across and maybe taking a teeny bit of a walk inside Central Park. Hey, the Mighty Bull is here. What's up? Yeah, Latha says it was definitely very, very sketchy way back in the day. I think one of the biggest transformations in New York City has been Hell's Kitchen. Now, obviously, I wasn't old enough to experience what Hell's Kitchen used to be like, but I've heard it wasn't too pleasant, and now it is rather a very, very nice area. Jack O says, what is your current position in the stock market, all cash? With your position, would you consider yourself biased? Absolutely, I would consider myself biased, and I think we all would. I try not to suffer too much from cognitive dissonance. Let me just let these people go by because I have a huge umbrella that could poke these people. And that's really why we don't talk about specific, recommend or talk about specific investments on the channel. We try to keep it more broad-based. Talk about earnings, talk about, global macro. We sometimes whittle down to sectors, but I think it could, well, let me say this. There are some people on the internet that have a large enough audience size to fundamentally move stock prices. Even if we had, I would say, you know, 1 million subscribers here, it would be very difficult to move the price of like Apple or any of the mega caps. We're never going to get the channel that big, but I'm saying if we ever did, I would not talk about mid-cap stocks. I just don't think it would be ethical, not even just to cover them, because people take things out of context all the time. And as we know, anytime you have any sort of financial related channel or stream and you talk about something and it's obvious that you're not recommending it, people just go ahead and buy it anyway. So I think if we grow the channel to a certain point, I would totally refuse to talk about micro caps and mid caps. I think it would be an ethics issue. But where we are now, it's like we don't, and here's the thing. I don't trade penny stocks. I don't trade these garbage companies. I only focus on the quality, which tend to be of a higher market cap, if that makes sense. Good question, though. Good question. All right, for those of you who are tuning in, we have the Plaza Hotel right here. We are looking directly down West 58th Street. You could see Billionaires Row and 220 Central Park South. Steve CR says ethics, what a wow, we usually never buffer around here. Strange, we usually never ever buffer here. All right, team, so this is the Apple Store. One thing that stands out about Apple, right? We've covered this many times, but on Apple's last earnings report, they grew their revenues by 8%. Tim Cook comes on the earnings call and says that they were expecting a double-digit sales growth quarter for Apple. The only reason why they didn't have a double-digit revenue growth quarter is because of a strong US dollar. Dixie's actually coming down now, which is good. That was a strong buffer too. You know what I think it is? Whenever I forget to turn off my Wi-Fi and we walk around the city near WeWork offices, my phone tries to connect to the WeWork locations. And then we go in and out of the Wi-Fi. I think that may be it. Hey, Penelope is here. What's up? Good to see you, Penelope. Thank you for joining us. Ryan Bex, Tom, any thoughts on the Bank of Japan and their bond buying? I'm very concerned about that. Now, here's the thing. I honestly don't think I think you could ask the smartest person on Wall Street, the biggest brains on the street, and I don't think anybody really knows how this turns out, mainly because this is uncharted waters. Now, we live in this almost like perpetual debt-based system and perpetual debt cycle. And especially if you think about a country like Japan, they're dealing with population stagnation and population decline. So in order for them to keep their economy afloat, or somewhat afloat, they have to be in this perpetual easing cycle. Now, the Bank of Japan, they are still holding interest rates negative interest rates, and they continue to buy bonds to provide liquidity. Every time the Bank of Japan or the BOJ doesn't or ceases their bond buying activity, we have a liquidity crisis and almost a major financial meltdown. So are we going to need a reset, for lack of a better term? I don't know. But that is a major concern to me. A major concern. And the Bank of Japan is trying to prop up the economy. Team, this is the Sherry Netherlands here. And this is actually where very famous trader Jesse Livermore unfortunately committed suicide back in the day. And if anybody's ever read Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, which is loosely based upon the life of Jesse Livermore, boy plunger, it is the 100th anniversary of that book. And a good friend of mine who watches the stream notified me of that 100th year anniversary. So thank you to John for that. It's one of my favorite books. I think if you're just getting started trading or investing, that should be one of the first books you read, is Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. I think if you want to work at Tudor Investments, which is Paul Tudor Jones' investment company, I believe that is required reading. I think that is required reading there. Now, let's see if we can go in to the Plaza Hotel now that the holidays are over. I'll give you guys a shot of the beautiful red stairs here, and they have amazing chandeliers as well. Just look at the architecture here. No way. Is that true, Melissa? 2087, Dave & Buster's owner? That is horrible. That is so depressing to read that. All right, I'll try to give you guys a view in there. I think they have the Christmas lights up still. Okay, we are now inside the Plaza Hotel. It smells amazing in here. I don't know why, but it smells amazing. Check out all of the detail with the chandeliers, crown moldings. This is the hotel lobby. Now, I'd love to take you guys on a walk through here, but unfortunately, anywhere past this entrance is registered hotel guests and patrons only. And that is not what we are, but wow, look at how gorgeous it looks in there. It looks absolutely fantastic. I think they're probably going to take the holiday decorations down maybe sometime this week. Hey, August Ice, what's up? Dusty Cole, funny. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and hit the subscribe button if you're new. Ooh, look at this. This is really nice. This backpack here, it's sort of like a leather backpack and a cool notepad. I really like that. Wow. This is the bar area. Rad thinks is telling if they ask who you are, just tell them you with me. I appreciate that. Yeah, Richard Vogel says time to make a purchase. I know. I can't get over the chandeliers in here. It looks unbelievable. Yeah, Rain X12, this is the Italian marble pillars. And that's my favorite musical artist too, Dean Martin, I think, over the loudspeaker. AUS Fly Girl says a martini, please. Coming right up. Really nice setup. This is cool. I don't think we've ever been down here. Okay, everybody. So this is the entrance to the shops at the plaza. I'm actually very surprised that we're getting any cell service here. But the shops at the plaza are now open. It was closed during the pandemic. So it is open Monday through Saturday, 8 to 8 p.m. That's good to know. If you haven't been to the shops at the plaza, you have to. It's gorgeous. There's a little sneak peek for you guys. Maybe we'll have to do a stream earlier in the day so I could show you guys. So this is the fitness center, the Oak Room and Bar, and then the shops and the food hall, the Grand Ballroom is downstairs. Steve CR says, where are the people? Well, we just got a really bad PMI print, and I think the average night at the Plaza Hotel is like $1,000. Maybe people are trying to save money, who knows? Oh, Dan, for sure. Says, Tom, can we have our first fan meeting here? We could all chip in. Yeah, maybe we'll have a Walks from Wall Street open bar right here. I'll rent out the whole place and everybody could come and hang out. I think that'd be fun. I'd do that. Maybe we'll do that in the summer. Walks from Wall Street open bar at the Plaza. Jack O with the very good comment. Jack, I'm going to read your comment when we get outside just because I don't want to disturb these guests. You know what I really like? The rugs here. The Plaza Hotel rugs. Really beautiful. All right, team, let's head out. So I got a comment here that when will we fill up the strategic petroleum reserves? And I think it's a really good question. Now, that should bring us to our next topic of crude oil. Now, take a look at crude oil futures now, selling off again, $74. I think as of doing videos where crude futures are trading, we also have the individual oil stocks like ExxonMobil, Chevron, and Occidental Petroleum. I think they're going to see substantial declines here. I think this energy trade is over, which, right? Not to be, I'm going to be objective here. I actually think that our government played this very, very well. Now, the Biden administration has been taking much criticism as of late. Here's the residences at the Plaza Hotel. So you could actually buy individual units and rent individual units here at the Plaza. But the entrance is a little bit different. The entrance is on the Central Park South side. But anyway, the Biden administration has been taking some criticism that they have been draining the strategic petroleum reserves. But I actually think this is all going to work out and it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. And we've actually made a pretty good trade here. Because I think we're going to be able to fill it up at much lower prices, which is good. That's actually what I want because selfishly I am an American. So it turns out that this is actually pretty good. So 2 thumbs up. Two thumbs up. Jonathan Francis, record profits between ExxonMobil. You're correct. But look at the earnings estimates. right? So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an insight. This is one of the best lessons I've learned from a really, really good hedge fund manager on Wall Street. He said, Tom, investors don't care about what the company earned last year. We buy a stock because we want to participate in future earnings. And that always really resonated with me. So people buy stocks, investors buy stocks. We don't care what the company earned last year. We care about what are they going to earn next year and the year after that, right? That is why we buy the stock. And the reason why I think, and look, I could be completely wrong. This is an unbelievable chess set here. I could be completely wrong, but I think earnings are going to be materially lower. I think you could see oil and gas companies seeing, 20% haircut in earnings. And does that mean that these stocks are garbage stocks? No, it just means that they may not trade at these higher price levels, higher valuations. And I think this trade is a little bit long in the tooth, but maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Who here in the chat thinks that oil and gas companies or oil and gas stocks are going to continue to outperform in 2023? This is the Park Lane Hotel. I think I've showcased this many times on the live stream too. Sparks Carnival says, Tom, I avoid Oxy and ExxonMobil like the plague. And here's the thing. Investors that are much, much better than me, much, much smarter than me, i.e. Warren Buffett. Oh, look at how pretty this looks. This is called Rose Lane. And he has a huge position in Oxy. So technically I'm taking the other side of the trade as Warren Buffett. So, proceed with caution there. Life, Liberty, and Guns is no because of the recession. That's another thing. Is oil and gas or the price action in crude oil forecasting an economic recession, right? In recessions, we don't consume as much oil. And that is also why, I'm so glad Life, Liberty, and Guns chimed in and said that, because let me try to be a contrarian to my own contrarianness. We talked about how a lot of these, I should just say China in general, is performing rather well. A lot of the American ADRs are performing rather well too, but here's what I don't understand. I think for this China bull theory to be intact, and in all honesty, I am rather bullish, then if we have this China reopening, why wouldn't oil or crude oil be rallying here? If anything, it's breaking down. Crude oil has been selling off rather significantly, breaking its 200-day, rallying back to its 50-day. Oh, this is cool. You have a live look of the behind the scenes of a hotel. This is where they do all the laundry. Hopefully they change that every day. But yeah, I mean, if this China reopening story was going to be true and it was actually going to happen, why wouldn't crude be going up? Any thoughts there? I don't know. I'm asking you guys. I don't know. It's interesting. All right, let's continue on our walk. Now, I finally have the new Substack up. So if you guys want to subscribe to that free newsletter, we are going to be starting up next week. So we're back in the full swing of things. So if you want to read my thoughts on the markets and stay up to date, if you type !news, NEWS in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link to the newsletter. Just punch in your email and you'll be signed up to receive it. It's absolutely free. I think it's going to be a cool place for everybody to share our collective thoughts and read my thoughts on the market and discuss it as a collective on the stream here. So once again, if you type !news, NEWS in the chat, the Nightbot will drop that link. Hey, Marciam says, can't predict China's next move. Very optimistic. Oh, Mrs. Matthew M. Hey, Sabrina Fair, what's up? I wish I could say the same thing about me, Sabrina Fair. Happy New Year and happy second trading day of the month. Ha! Mike C, what's up, dude? Good to see you. Ooh, look at this. This looks expensive. Now, do we have any drinkers in the chat who could inform us of what this is? I'm assuming just that they have it on display. Maybe it's going to be an expensive bottle, perhaps. Cognac. Hopefully that's how you pronounce that. How much does a bottle of that cost? 100, 200 bucks? Something like that? Maybe more? I don't know. All right, 106 Central Park South. This actually used to be my old building right here. During the New York City mini flash crash that we had in real estate. 15K? Oh my God, no way. $15,000 US. Why the heck do they have it on display? Hopefully it's behind bulletproof glass. Wow, Dan Zhang says, Tom, I saw one selling for $4,000. Whew. I think that's a little bit out of my price range. Hey, Shaunos is good investment there. Okay, I want to point something out because I think you guys are going to enjoy this. Now, I think I mentioned it briefly last night, but as we turn right here on Billionaires Row, West 57th Street, I want everybody to take a look at the new video that's out. Ryan Serhant gave an incredible tour of the triplex atop of Central Park Tower. I think Ryan Beck shared the link with me already, but you guys got to check this thing out. It's nuts. It's selling for $250 million, and it has the world's highest roof deck ever. So when you walk outside every morning on your patio, you have the highest roof deck in the entire world. And it's so tall, tonight you can't even see the building. Now think about that. This is 157, and behind it is Central Park Tower. It is so tall that you can't even see it tonight. So I'm actually not even gonna walk down that way because it's so cloudy you can't even see it. That's crazy. Hey, Teresa Diaz, what's up? Good to see you. Tug Carter says, Tom, some of the brandy has aged over 100 years. That's why it's so expensive. Jeez. 100 years. That's wild. Now, you know, you guys want to know something interesting? You know what YouTube channel I watch a lot? I shouldn't say a lot, but sometimes I watch it. And I don't even drink. I just find it so fascinating. Now, the channel is called The Whiskey Vault. Has anybody ever heard of that channel? It's called The Whiskey Vault. They're these two guys. They have great personalities. And all they do is they just try different whiskeys and bourbons. And they tell you about it. They have a massive collection. And it is so cool to watch. And I don't even drink, but it's so cool to watch. Check it out for any of our bourbon or whiskey drinkers. The channel is called The Whiskey Vault. And it's fun, man. It's fun to watch. Oh, Ed T says, Tom, I've seen it. Nice. Robert says you don't drink either. It's a cool show. Oh, the Dark Horse, you invest in bourbon. Interesting. I know blues writers like they're the Cheech and Chong of whiskey. They're funny, man. They have good personalities. I like them. And you actually learn a lot too about the different distilleries, and it's really actually kind of interesting. Dan Zhang says, Tom, I got my bartending license last year for fun. Call me anytime, I'll make you a cocktail. I think bartending would be fun. I think it would be really fun. Tom G says, what's the channel's name again? It is called The Whiskey Vault. like a vault. So Whiskey Vault. Mike 34, good to see you. Thanks for joining, Mike. We are now standing outside of the main flagship Hilton Hotel that was actually closed down during the pandemic. There was nobody here. They completely closed it down, but they did a gut renovation. It's actually really nice in there. I took you guys inside before. Here we have the NYPD coming down. Oh, team, we still have one more topic to talk about. Now, everybody knows, who's been following Walks on Wall Street, knows that I generally tend to really hammer home, and my whole investment philosophy is can slim, right? So Investors Business Daily, IBD. So I spend a lot of my time near looking at new high lists, looking at relative strength. Anybody noticing the exceptionally fantastic price action in a lot of the gambling stocks? Anybody noticing that? Such as like Wynn Resorts. I think it has about a 92% RS rating. Pretty much any of the stocks that tend to perform really well during recessions, unfortunately, are acting really well. So makeup, we talked about e.l.f. Now, it's a true statistic. People will tend to indulge on simple luxuries during recessions. And one thing that performs really well is makeup. Women and men nowadays buy more makeup during recessions or during times of economic downturn than not. And Ulta is performing well, e.l.f. is performing well, ticker symbol ELF, but also a lot of the casino stocks too. Matthew M says gambling equals addiction. Yeah, true. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. These are actually acting really well. So, as I'm watching the leaders, these are the specific sectors that I would point out that are performing well as we're walking past the Nürburgring Berman and the UBS. And we'll also talk about Caterpillar in a minute. And I think that actually reinforces the emerging market bull trend thesis. Home builders are doing well. We talked about that yesterday on the stream. I think they're actually setting up into stage 1 bases. Now, again, there's every single bearish indicator in the world that would sort of advise you not to go into those names, but at the end of the day, they're performing well for whatever reason. I think from Marcelo Gill, we'll give a quick shot at UBS. Steve Ciaris' last casino. I know, ate a burger and beer and watched people hand their cash over to the dealer. Yeah, Bree Graham's like skincare is also doing well. PD is here, welcome. Hey Ken, what's up? No, not necessarily like the DraftKings of the world, more sort of like the Wynn Resorts, those type of stocks. So check out ticker symbol WYNN. Today it was up almost 7%. It was up like 6.5% today. I would say the number 2 stock to look at, ticker symbol LVS, up about 5%. So you're having all the type of stocks that really get rocking in a recessionary environment. And maybe that was off the back of a major piece of economic news we got out, which was the manufacturing PMIs falling off a cliff. The manufacturing sector in the United States is in extreme contraction. And potentially that may be why those gambling stocks and makeup stocks perform pretty well today. Look at these one-wheeler things. These guys are crazy. They're cool to look at, though. Alex R says, Tom, I might go back to Vegas, not to gamble, but to get some sun in the colder months. Come down to Miami, Florida. You can actually go to the beach. Vegas is just too dry for me. I've been there many times, but it's too dry. Too dry. My friend Andy is here. What's up? Good to see you, Andy. Thanks for joining us. Andy is from South Korea. Trust you're well. Notice the difference between the people outside tonight and the people that were out before New Year's Eve. It almost feels kind of empty now. Hey, Dusty Cole, what's up? Good to see you, Dusty. Thanks for joining us. I always like getting this shot outside of Radio City. You have the NYPD police cruisers here. Pup is here. Welcome, Pup. Now, that's another thing. I don't think I would ever get involved in any of those names just for personal reasons. I just think gambling is a really, really bad habit. And it can lead to very, very bad addictions. You know, for me, it's almost as if sort of the same ethics trade that a lot of people have on Wall Street as they talk about, you know, the Lockheed Martins of the world and things like that. Now, those stocks have been acting rather well too, the defense stocks. I think Lockheed Martin was down today, but I don't know, I don't really want to get involved in those stocks because I'm not for a lot of the military spending and sending money all over the world to drop bombs on people. Not a big fan of that. But those are the sectors that are rocking. You know what? I'm curious if the tree is still up. Since we're here, we got to check it out. I'm just so curious. All right, who thinks the tree is still up? Sabrina Ferris says, Tom, gambling, liquor, dating, many vices, but no peeps who can gamble occasionally. Not everybody bets their home away. That's true. That's true. Evan Weeks says, I play poker. When I go, I start with $500 seed money. I never rebuy. That's good. Yeah, some people can control it. It's fine, but I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff. You guys know, I used to go to Vegas a lot for work, and I shouldn't say a lot, but it's almost like watching robots, you know, sitting at the slot machine and they're just like droning along, hammering the button. I just don't get it. Who knows? And here, you know, you want to know the real reason why I probably don't gamble at the casinos is because you're allowed to smoke. I'll pass out. I am so sensitive to cigarette and cigar smoke. I'll pass out. I get really, really terrible headaches. I'm horrible with that. Hey, Isaac C, what's up? Thanks for joining us. The wind is picking up a little bit. We're outside of 30 Rock, but I think we covered a lot on the stream. We talked about a lot. So I appreciate you guys hanging tight. And thank you for your conversation. It is. It is still up. And now that the tourists are gone, you could actually get really close to the Christmas tree too. Hey, Western Mass Dave, what's up? Good to see you, Dave. Joseph Hardaway says, yeah, the casinos all smell like cigarettes. That is one of the things I don't like, for sure. While we're here, we might as well get close to the tree. I think this is the closest we've gotten all year. Pretty good hack, right? I guess contrarian trade. A little bit of Rockefeller Center Christmas tree arbitrage here. Boris is here. Says, good evening, everybody from Jamaica. Welcome. Hey, Christy F. says, oh, thank you for stopping by the tree again. Not a problem. I thought they were going to take it down by now, but thank God they haven't. Looks nice. Right behind us is the FAO Schwartz building. Now, when I was a kid, when I used to come here, I didn't come often, but it wasn't right here. It was actually up by the Apple Store on 5th Avenue, if anybody remembers that. That was where the old building was. We got two of our NYPD officers standing right there. Appreciate the good work. Keeping the city safe throughout the crazy holidays and crazy New Year's too. Now, we were doing the live stream on New Year's Eve, and supposedly there was some pretty egregious crime going on not too far away from where we were, with knives and hatchets and things like that. So, you know, rookie cops, they don't make a lot of money. I was going to be a rookie cop in the NYPD, and it's a thankless job, and you make 40 grand, and you have to deal with a lot of BS. So I definitely respect anybody who does it, and it's dangerous job. You never know. So appreciate the NYPD for sure. All right, one more shot of the tree, and then we are going to boogie on out of here, team. I think now that we're getting closer to the tree, it looks really nice, actually. All right, the last thing we got to do is check out the rink, the ice skating rink. And then we'll head out. So guys, look for that tomorrow. I think that'll be an interesting addition to the channel here, Walks in Wall Street. You guys will be able to see my computer screen, and we will be doing quick 10-minute standalone market update videos for those of you who may have missed the live stream, who doesn't stay for the whole 2 hours. I think it'll be a quick, short, concise video for all of those to follow along, so definitely look out for that. Ice skating rink looks good. This is actually a really nice shot. If Teresa Diaz is watching this, maybe take a screenshot. This is a really good view. AM, good to see you. This police job is pretty safe and well paid here in Europe. Okay, let's head out. I think they're calling everybody off the ice for tonight. I think we came just to closing time. Jonathan Francis, soon you'll have a casino in New York City. I heard about that. I heard about that too. Supposedly they have approved a permit to build another casino in New York. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but you know, I do have a little bit of a background in criminal justice. Obviously, I went to, I would say, probably the most notable school in the entire world for criminal justice. And it's going to sound like a blanket statement, but casinos can be a pretty big breeding ground for organized crime and sex trafficking. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. But I guess you could. Oh, sorry about that. I guess you could say money talks. So. All right, but we need to start heading downtown. We got to make a big push downtown. We're at the 2-hour mark, so we're officially in Walks to Wall Street after hours territory. We got to get back down to 33rd Street. But you know what is down for the season, everybody? The Saks Fifth Avenue light show is officially over for the season. Hey, Shannon Hall, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Now we're going to be walking down to 33rd Street and Madison. That is exactly where we started the live stream. So this is a quick recap for those of you who are just joining. We started off the live stream by talking about this big trend that's been happening all over corporate America with the massive layoffs. You know, we were hit with some big news that Salesforce, Mark Benioff's company, is laying off about 10% of the entire workforce. And they are also going to be drastically reducing a lot of the office space there as well. And one of the things we noted is that I would say the main two CEOs at the beginning of the pandemic who has embraced remote and hybrid work more than any other CEO has really been Mark Benioff, number one. He said, if you work at Salesforce, you don't have to come to the office. You have a choice. And then former CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, he actually made 100% remote at Twitter before Elon Musk bought the company. So we were talking about, if you think about all these older office buildings, nobody's working in them. Why would companies want to keep a very expensive lease? They're going to be trying to break out of their leases. And we saw this on Meta's or Facebook's earnings report, where I think they had about $1 billion in markdown or COGS, in breaking out of their leases and trying to downsize. So that's going to be an interesting trend to watch. Amazon also came out today announcing 17,000 workers are going to be laid off. That is more than they originally expected. So 17,000 workers at Amazon. Vimeo, which is sort of like a video sharing company, is announced today that they are going to be laying off 11% of their workforce. And then, as we know, Goldman Sachs has announced about 3 weeks ago that they're going to be laying off 8% of their workforce starting relatively soon, probably after they give out all of their bonuses. I don't think they would stiff a lot of the investment bankers out of the bonuses and cut them loose before those annual bonuses. Then we went on to talk about the Institute for Supply Management PMI numbers that came in below analysts' expectations and economists' expectations today, coming in at 48.4% for December, decelerating even further from the 49% in November. If you guys want the link to that report, please type !ISM in the chat, and the Nightbot will drop the link for you guys to update your spreadsheets in Excel, add the updated data point so you can see the further deterioration of the manufacturing sector in the US. And please scroll down and read about what the respondents are saying, because that is the most critical and most important part of the report. Hey Ron, what's up? Abdullah, welcome. Okay, West 45th Street. Dr. Longus. This is interesting because in my city in recent months, Amazon has built new warehouses and has vans all over the place. Yeah, I mean, I think that's just the name of the game, right? Expansion way too fast, to your point. I think that Amazon is actually looking to get out and close down or even stop some of their plans for expansion. Yeah, Steve CR says this year your bonus is your employment. You're right. You know, speaking of Walgreens, I think Walgreens either reported today or tomorrow. Could anybody look that up? I'm actually curious about that. I totally forgot. Oh, and we got the JOLTS numbers out. And there's a lot of job openings. And that is very negative or bearish for people that are anticipating a Fed pivot. Because if there's a lot of job openings, that means wage pressures are going to continue. And what did the Federal Reserve say? Fed President John Williams, New York Fed President John Williams, said specifically that he wants unemployment rate to go to 5%. Steve CR says, Tom, my phone the last couple days have lit up for telemarketers. Same here, so I'm going to give you a tip. Shauno says, Walgreens reports tomorrow. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Now, here's a tip for anybody who gets hammered by spam phone calls. Here's a tip. Keep your phone, if you have an iPhone. Oh, man. She did not care to get hit by that car. All right, so if anybody has an iPhone, here's what I think would be, we'll keep walking down this way because we're short on time. Always put your phone on Do Not Disturb, because your phone will never ring. And if it's somebody really, really important, they're just gonna text you, say, hey, I just tried to call you. Could you call me back? And then you just call them back. That will eliminate so much nonsense from your life. And it's actually been a big productivity hack for me, because I know that the people who really need to get to me, they'll either leave a message or they'll text me and say, hey, Tom, pick up the phone. So put your phone on Do Not Disturb and you'll be fine. Quick shot of the beautiful New York Public Library. Hey Jeff, thank you so much. Says, good evening, Tom. Wow, how this channel has grown. 1,000 viewers. I know, it is, it's insane. So thank you everybody for watching Walks on Wall Street. I've noticed that too. I think pretty consistently now, we've been getting about 900 to 1,000 concurrent viewers, which I appreciate very, very much. And I'm honored to be able to do these streams for you guys. And hopefully you like the information. Hopefully you enjoy the research that I present, and maybe you've learned something. I've learned a lot from you guys. But yeah, I mean, it's very uncharacteristic for a channel this small, right? Now we have a pretty big crowd and I appreciate it, but on a relative scale, it's kind of uncharacteristic. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, now we're passing the HSBC on our way back down to the office. Hey, LL, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Hey, 45 is here. What's up? Formerly NNB 045. Hope you're doing well tonight. I got your email, by the way. YC says your phone is Android. No. iPhone. So we stream on iPhone 13 mini. That is what we stream on. Oh, and lastly, we talked about a potential rumor on Wall Street with Jeffries. If you look up ticker symbol JEF, Jeffries Financial Group, maybe we have a little bit of a merger or a takeover bid, something like that. Stock popped to $34 on almost 1,000% of average daily trading volume, which is really insane. Twitch ASMR says Walgreens better than CVS. I like CVS better because of the self-checkout. I don't think Walgreens or Dwayne Reed has self-checkout. Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Walgreens now owns Dwayne Reed. Hey, love is kind. Thank you for saying that. That is very kind. The investigator. Thank you for the time check. We are almost back to our location here. Awesome shot at the Empire. Yeah, Dusty Cole, I'm all about self-checkout, man. I don't like waiting in line. I like checking out myself. I'm for self-checkout or the exact setup of B&H photo. I think that is the best. Hey, Hawaii, what's up? Good to see you. They're going into the smoke shop. I think we have our first legal marijuana dispensary in New York City. So you can legally buy weed if you're over 21 years old. That should definitely be a nice tax generation for the good old state and city of New York. Maybe if it really catches on, they can give the citizens a little bit of a tax break instead of beating us over the head with the state tax, with the New York City tax. Yikes. Yeah, Steve CR, it's correct. Shivas says, Tom, any comments on Goldman sharpens knife on headcount, bonuses along with other big banks? Yeah, so we talked about that earlier on in the stream. Now, Goldman Sachs is going to cut about 8% of their workforce. There's, major articles plastered all over the internet that the major investment banks are going to have really small bonuses this year. That's obvious, right? Because if you work in investment banking, now there's many different departments of the investment bank, but take a company like Goldman Sachs that pretty much has no retail banking exposure, right? At least Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase has a lot of retail banking exposure. Goldman Sachs tried to break into retail banking with their Goldman Sachs Marcus by Goldman Sachs that didn't really work out well. So they make a lot of their money on transactions, mergers and acquisitions, equity underwriting, and new IPO issuances. And in 2021, there was record bonuses on Wall Street because we had an absolute boom in IPOs, in M&A activity. But now IPO activity for 2022 declined 99%, right? M&A transactions fell off a cliff. So that means a lot less fee income for a lot of these investment banks. Lower profitability translates to lower bonuses. So I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to have to downsize. You know, I have a good friend who works at Goldman, and during the pandemic in 2021, I never saw him. He was working 24/7, 365 because the deal flow was insanity. You know, you were working 80, 90 hours a week. You know, it was insane because there were so many deals. There was a ridiculous amount of deals. Now deal flow has dried up a bit, obviously, now that the Federal Reserve has started to raise interest rates and slow down the economy and suck liquidity out of the environment. So it's hard to raise money. But I'll leave you guys off with this. Yes, IPO activity is down about 99%. But here's an interesting tip. It is so critical to pay very, very, very close attention to the companies that become public and IPO during economic downturns. Because you know that if you can IPO your company in a time like this, when nobody's investing any money, nobody's raising money, you know it's a very, very good company. It probably has explosive earnings growth, is probably really, really amazing. The fundamentals are probably stellar. So that's sort of a little trick I use is I don't really necessarily pay attention to the companies that are going public during euphoric market cycles like the one that we're just coming off of. It's more important to pay attention to the IPOs when things are really, really bad. Because if an investor is willing to give you money when times are bad, you must have a rock solid business plan. And with that, team, I got to cut you guys loose. I want to thank everybody for joining Walks on Wall Street tonight. Hopefully you'll join us tomorrow. Please hit the subscribe button on the way out. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the stream. And thank you all for having a great conversation with me tonight. So Dr. Longest, thank you so much. Ryan Royal, Lily, Layda, touring different places. Tom G, GGMYC, Wendy England, Buy the Book, EBITDA, Richard, Twitch, Andy, Evan Weeks, thank you so much. Abdullah. We will see you tomorrow if you want to join us at 4 p.m. for our Walks on Wall Street coffee hour. And to the mighty bull, have a good night wherever you are, because there is always a bull market somewhere, and you just need to know where to look. Already Thursday. We're in the home stretch. We'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Bye for now. FredX, you too. God bless.